Well, here today we are going to be reviewing 3 different types of very popular carry guns that I'm seeing in my classes these days. And these are 3 guns that a lot of people ask about. So they're all subcompact guns. They're fairly slim. So we're looking at the Sig 365XL. This is the Glock 43X. And the Smith & Wesson M&P Shield EZ. So when you just compare these guns, they all look relatively the same size. The Smith is a little bit wider than the other guns. It's a little bit bigger than either the Glock or the Sig. And then when I actually weighed these, the Smith was the heaviest of the 3. If a few ounces matters to you when you're carrying, really doesn't to me, but for some people that's a factor. So let's just check these out. I bought the Smith and the Sig today. So Smith, it's is what it is. It's the Shield. I got it with no thumb safety. I really don't like the way Smith makes their thumb safeties these days, unless you have that really big oversized one. I don't like those flush safeties. It does have the grip safety, which I do see issues with in my classes. What tends to happen is people will start shooting and then their grip will loosen just a little bit, and then they go to press the trigger and then realize they don't have a good grip on it, reestablish the grip, and then they can press the trigger. So of course, with Smith, you have the almost non-existent reset. It's there, but it is very, very soft. The initial trigger pull is relatively crisp. It's not bad. If you're a trigger snob, you're not going to like it, but you'll probably dump an aftermarket trigger in there anyway. But that initial take-up it's pretty firm. And then the break is relatively crisp. It's not a bad trigger, I just don't like the reset. Next, the Glock 43X. So the 43X has the longer grip, and if you get the Shield Arms magazines, you can get 15 rounds in there, which is really nice. So Glock trigger is what it is. Everybody knows the Glock trigger. Not the best trigger, but it's fairly crisp, and the reset, as always, is very positive. The 365XL. Sig triggers, not the best. This one is probably the worst trigger of them all. So even with that take up, when you get to the break wall, there's still a little bit of give, and the trigger, you can't tell on video, but it does have a lot of slop, and it's fairly gritty and mushy. So this is probably the worst trigger of the 3. Reset, it's there, but that initial pull is very squishy, and the trigger itself is pretty gritty. I'm sure there's some aftermarket triggers you can get for these, or you can go in there and do a little trigger work, clean that up a little bit. When we get the weight on these, the Glock comes in at just about a pound. The EZ is 1 pound 5 ounces. And the Sig is 1 pound 2 ounces. So there's not that much difference between the 3 when you weigh them empty. Now the important point is going to be, all right, what do they weigh with rounds in them? So this is standard 115 grain round nose. So this is the Shield Arms magazine for the Glock, and it holds 15 rounds, which is really nice. So that puts the Glock 43X as the same capacity as a Glock 19. So fully loaded magazine. Now you're looking at 1 pound 9 ounces. For the Sig, it holds 12 rounds, 1 pound 9 ounces. And then the Smith, it has a single stack magazine, which is kind of surprising because this is the largest gun in the group. I don't know why they didn't go with a double stack there. Only holds 8 rounds. 1 pound 10 ounces. So you can see fully loaded, all of these guns weigh just about the same. So weight really shouldn't play a factor in choosing what type of gun to get here. So the only other thing I want to talk about when we're just doing a tabletop review of these guns is the magazine with the Smith. Even though it only holds 8 rounds, it's super easy to load, and hence the name EZ. So what this has is a pull tab on the side, and you can just set it down right on top of a counter, pull that tab down, and literally just drop your rounds in. So if you don't have a ton of hand strength, this is a very, very easy magazine to load. But once again, capacity, only 8 rounds. Now, the Sig magazine was literally the most difficult magazine I have ever loaded in my life. To get to 12 rounds on this took an unbelievable amount of hand strength. And I've been doing this a long time. I've loaded millions of rounds into magazines. So my technique is on point, but this was extremely difficult to get 12 rounds in. Keep that in mind if you're going to go with the Sig. So if you don't have much hand strength, or if you don't have a magazine loading assisting device, something like that, you're going to struggle to load this magazine to its capacity. The Shield Arms mag, it's not bad. It is stiff once you start getting past, 10 rounds or so, because they managed to cram a lot of rounds into such a small space. But when you're going with that Glock 43X, small package, 15 rounds in it, it's a very, very good carry option. A couple of other features we should probably talk about is, so with the 43X, you can see there's no rail option for the bottom, and I did not get the MOS or modular optic system, so you can get this with a slide cut to accept a red dot. The 365XL already came with that, and it has tritium night sights, which are pretty nice. But if you're going to be, utilizing a light or something like that, I don't see a whole lot of people taking advantage of tritium sights, to be quite honest. You'd prefer to go with a red dot and a light and something like that. And the Smith didn't come with a slide cut, but I think you can get them in that format. I'm not sure. But it does come with a rail system for a light. So another few options just to keep in mind. Now all these came, so the 43X comes with a standard 10 round magazine. So it comes with a couple of those. Keep that in mind. You have to get the aftermarket Shield Arms 15 round mags, but they're not expensive, and you should have more mags anyway, so I'd just go ahead and pick those up if you're going to get a 43X or a 48, something like that. The other two guns, the Smith and the Sig, both came with 2 magazines each. So those are all the things that came with the guns themselves. The most expensive gun was the 365. Next is the Glock, and then the cheapest option is the M&P. So, after putting these guns through their paces, putting a few rounds through each one of them, what are my final thoughts? Well, like any other gun, it depends. So, they have some good features, they have some bad features, it's going to depend on the individual user. So the Smith, there's a few things I don't like about it. First and foremost is the grip safety, but it was relatively soft shooting. It's very easy to rack the slide because of the light recoil spring, and the magazine is super easy to load. Now, capacity is the issue, and it's the biggest of the guns, but not by much. And when it's fully loaded, it doesn't weigh much more than the other guns. So who would I recommend this for? Folks who don't have quite the hand strength that maybe they used to, or they just don't. Like I said, it's easy to rack the slide. It's easy to load the magazine. So if you don't have very good hand strength, the Smith is a good option for you. The Sig also has some nice features. This actually felt pretty good in my hand. I didn't think I would like it because the grip is just a little bit smaller than the other two, but it's not bad. If you can get past the trigger's not great, but it was relatively soft shooting, easy to keep on target. Recoil wasn't bad, but that magazine, man, that magazine is ridiculous to load. That spring in that magazine is just so stiff, and it's really, really hard to get all 12 rounds into that magazine. So if you don't have good hand strength, or you don't have some sort of magazine assisting, magazine loading assisting device, something like that, I wouldn't recommend the Sig. Now the Glock, probably the most felt recoil out of all the three. It is the lightest gun, so that's probably the reason. It's a little bit shorter than the other two. The slide is okay to rack. It's not bad. It's in between, say, the Smith and the Sig, but all around pretty decent. It's you know, it is what it is. It's a Glock. It just works. And with the Shield Arms 15 round magazine, you've got a 15 round capacity. So if I were to grade these, or if I were to rate these on a 1 to 3 scale, which one I would recommend, just overall for the end user, I'd probably first and foremost go with the Glock, next the Smith, and then last the Sig. And that's just, you know, obviously that's subjective. For each person, it's going to be different, but just for me personally, it's going to be ranked in that order. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this helps you make an informed decision on which one of these three you might be looking at. And until next time, thanks.